Good evening to everybody. Welcome to the All India Bar Examination, the 16th cohort 2021, on whose examination is going to be conducted on 31st October 2021. Yes, anyone can read what I posted on the screen so that I could know that you are with me and I am with you. Quick.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Law of Contract and Specific Relief, compiled by Professor Dr. Mahamud Sahib Hussain.
There the multiple choice should be there because it is only the four are there. Contract is there, specific relief is there, and law of property is there, and the Negotiable Instrument Act also there. Therefore, will be included in it. Okay, now let us come to directly go to our studies is concerned. Okay, let us see the law of contract 1872 question. Okay, number one, essentio mentium, literal meaning is all but not one of them. Because here I have given the A, B, C, D. Among three are very much relevant. Only one is not relevant. A, meeting of the mind, that is, each of the parties mean the same thing in the same sense and at the same time, are mutual consent of the parties. Let me stop my video. Okay. Parties. B, meeting of the minds, that is, okay, each of these party mean the same thing in the same sense at the same time, are mutual consent of the parties. C, meeting of the minds, i.e., each of the party mean the same thing in the same sense and at the same time, are mutual consent of the parties. D, meeting of the minds, i.e., each of the parties mean the same thing in the same sense at the same time, are mutual consent of the parties. Then which one is the not related to the literal meaning of the essentio mentium? A, B, C, D. Shoot. I believe that you are hearing me. I believe that you are hearing me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because your silent makes me that whether you are hearing me or not. Even though it is wrong, there is no negative marks. The right
D,
answer
sir.
is yes.
D, sir. D.
D. Last one, the fourth one. Is it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Fourth one, D.
What makes you to think that fourth one is not the relevant answer? Not one of them, I said, among the A, B, C, D. If you happen to see, almost all giving the same sense, except one. What is that? Meeting of the minds. Okay, meeting of the minds. Each of the parties means the same thing in the same sense at the same time, are mutual. I said not correct one. When I say not correct one,
Sir, C, sir.
of course I changed some different. All of them I made a different thing is there. Okay, that is true. But only the D is right. D is right, but other things are different. I think the D is the right answer for that one because meeting of the mind, each of the parties mean the same thing in the same sense at the same time, mutual consent of the party, and everything is there. But one thing is missing: meeting of the mind. Then I say here minds are there. Here minds are there. It is the mind is there, isn't that? Are you following me? And here
Yes, sir. Following, sir.
here IE is there, here EG is there. Did you get my point? Eh? And then you see each of the parties mean the same thing in the same sense and at the same time are mutual consent of the parties. So here one thing is I want to make it very much clear. some of the thing is very much relevant to it. Some of the thing is which are not relevant to it. The exact thing here I want to say is the D is the exact thing. Because in other thing, everyone is a wrong is there. So better the question is, the meaning is, but not one of them know. It is a not one of them know. Meaning with all, which one among them is right? This is the actually the which one among them is right. If you see in this manner, then the D is right. Because in each A, B, C, there are mistakes are there. In one form, in another form. See here, I said the mind, I said. But here, I did not say the mind, here say head. Heads are not there, mind is there. That means C also wrong, B also wrong, because in the B, EG is there, actually IE that is. And here, mind is there. That means A, B, C is all wrong. Which one is among them is right means D is right answer. Actually, I believe the A.V. Rao told me the right answer first one. Is it not? Okay, let us come to the second question. And a consensus ad idem, literal meaning, which statement is false regarding it. Because say statement is false means three are very much relevant. Three are very much relevant to the consensus ad idem, literal meaning. So one is a false. Then which one it is false? A, meeting of the mind, i.e., each of the parties mean the same thing in the same sense at the same time are mutual consent of the parties. B, it means agreement in Latin, and in the contract law it means that there has been a meeting of the minds of all parties involved. C, consensus ad idem in contract law means there had been a meeting of the minds of all parties involved, and everyone involved has accepted the offer, contractual obligation of each party. D, consensus ad idem is a French term that means simply agreement, that is the first principle, that is the foundation of the enforceable contract. Because of the contracts to be enforceable, agreement or meeting of the minds of all involved parties is required. So among the four options, one is very much wrong. What is that very much wrong?
B, sir.
B, sir.
It is a D. Consensus ad idem is a French term. It is not a French term. It is a Latin term. So that is the right answer for that. Where the false is, the D is the false one. Okay, alibi, ALIBI, alibi means all but not one. Which one it is? A, the explanation given by a person accused of a crime that he or she was somewhere else when the crime was committed. B, someone who has an alibi can prove that they were somewhere else when a crime was committed and so can claim to be guilty. C, an excuse intended to avoid blame. She made up an alibi. Actually, you know how do you pronounce it? Alibi? That is the pronunciation. Alibi for the why she was late. And D, the noun alibi is the same word as its Latin root alibi, which means excuse. When you provide a alibi, you are giving a proof, a certified excuse you could not have committed a crime. So A, B, C, D, different meanings I have given. Then which
D,
one
sir.
is not connected
D.
to that one?
D.
Yes.
So the noun alibi is the same word as its Latin.
C, sir.
Her excuse intended to avoid the blame, and she made up, yes, it is true, by an alibi for why she was late. Yes, it was an excuse. She was not present over there. She has given the proof of it. If you happen to see the B, someone who has an alibi cannot prove, that is, cannot prove that they were somewhere, because already he was there when a crime was committed, so he can claim to be Is it a guilty? It is not a guilty here. He will be free. So someone who has an alibi can prove that they were somewhere else when the crime was committed, so can claim to be guilty. No, he not claim to be guilty, to claim to be innocent. That was the wrong thing which I made it over there. Alibi. Because when you say alibi, you want to prove that you want to be guilty? Yes?
Yes. No, sir.
You want to prove that you are not guilty because you are not committed a mistake. You are not committed a mistake. So that was the thing. Okay, now ALIBI. I don't know whether it is an acronym and is the full form is anyone. A. Adaptive location of the interworked basis of information. Adaptation location of the interworked basis of information. Adaptive location of the interworked basis of information. Adaptive locator of the interworked basis of information. Because when I was searching, then I found this alibi is the acronym and is a full form. I said, why I should not share with you?
C, sir.
It is a C. That the full form is adaptive, ADAPTIV, adaptive location of interworked basis of information. The other thing, I wrote adoption, ADOP, and somewhere I wrote basis, BASIS. In somewhere I wrote locator. So A, B, D, there are A, B, D, there are the mistake, but only the C one is a right answer. Okay, now the fifth one is Oberrem fide literally means that all three but not one among four. Oberrem fide means utmost good faith. It is an utmost good faith is an important factor. So it is there especially in the which contract it will come. It comes in the insurance contract. So A, utmost good faith in Latin, it requires the party to certain context to exercise the highest standard of the full disclosure of any relevant conditions, circumstances, or risk to their counterparties. B, utmost good faith is one of the first principles of an insurance contract. This means that both the parties have to be transparent with each other and material facts have to be disclosed both before the policy is issued and after. Withholding information by one party works against the interest of the other. C. An applicant for a life insurance policy will be asked to provide information about the health and family history. Based on those responses, the insurer will be decided whether to insure the applicant, what premium to be charged in an example of the Oberrem fide. And the D, the
It's
last
C,
one
sir.
is, yes,
C. C,
it
sir.
is,
An applicant.
so it is not connected with that one.
Yes, sir.
An applicant for the life insurance policy will be asked to provide information about their health and family
And
history.
family.
Based on these responses, the insurer will decide whether to insure the applicant and what premium to charge. It's an example of Oberrem fide. No, here I gave
No, sir. It's not.
principle of Oberrem fide. The last one, if you happen to see the last one, principle of Oberrem fide, it is a Latin phrase, or in a simple English words, the principle of utmost good faith is a very basic and first primary principle of insurance. But where I wrote is secondary principle of insurance. So not connected with it is D. It's the primary thing, principle of the insurance, Oberrem fide, having the good faith. But I wrote here secondary principle of insurance in the D. So the not relevant it is D. That is the answer for that one. So such questions, please don't do it in the beginning because it needs a sharp brain, a close outlook. You should have an idea what exactly the word stands for. So that is a very much important factor. The sixth, quantum merit. Quantum merit means, yes, anyone can read, unmute and read. Quantum merit means A.
The term literally means as much as deserved and often can be seen as the legal form of equitable compensation or restitution. B. A reasonable sum of money to be paid for services rendered or work done when the amount due is not stipulated in a legal enforceable contract. C. Latin for as much as he deserved, a legal remedy that provides restitution for unjust enrichment. D. Damages awarded in an amount considered reasonable to compensate a person who has provided services in a quasi-contractual relationship. Answer
Yes.
is B,
D,
sir.
Huh?
B. Answer is B.
Tell me why B is the answer. A
Sir,
reasonable sum of money, okay, to be paid, okay. See, suppose if the 10 days work and 10,000 will be given to you, you did the 5 days work. The proportionate amount 5,000 will be given to you. A reasonable sum of money to be paid for services rendered or work done when the amount is due, not stipulated in a legally enforceable contract. It is not clearly made. See, we say, and I have given the work for the 10 days and I will pay the 10,000 rupees.
yes,
But
sir.
you did only the 5 days. The proportional amount will be paid to you, even though it is not clearly
Yes, sir.
written in the contract.
That means it has to be as much as he deserved, which is C.
It is
C,
a
sir.
C because
C.
the point
Yes, sir.
is a legal remedy. No, it is not a legal remedy. It is a equitable remedy.
Yes.
Latin for as much as he deserved is not a legal remedy. It is no. It is not a legal remedy. It is an equitable remedy that provides a restitution of unjust enrichment. Suppose no one can be rich himself at the unjustly. That's why it is the equitable remedy you can say. So C is the answer. Okay. Now, in one of the case law, a building company renovated a cottage pursuant to an oral contract, and the owner failed to pay for the renovation. As the contract was held unenforceable, the building company could not be sued for the breach of contract. However, because they had performed a service to which the owner benefited, but they were entitled to a reasonable sum for that service. A. Under the law of contract. B. Under the law of quasi contract. C. Under the law of contingent contract. D. Under the quantum merit.
D, sir. Quantum merit.
It is a quantum merit. It's a proportionate. The work which he has done over there, and it is a purely the quantum merit. Based on that thing, it will be decided. Okay, eighth one. Yes. In limine or in limine means all three are very much relevant to the in limine, but not one. Which one it is not relevant to this one. A. An application made in limine is made at the beginning of a court proceeding, usually asks the judge to exclude certain evidence. B. A motion in limine is a motion that is labeled by one of the parties at the very ending of the legal procedure and seeks to pull the rug out from under the feet of the other party. A motion presented at the outset of the case to determine the admissibility of certain evidence. C. On the threshold, as a preliminary matter used for the motions regarding the admissibility of the evidence brought up at a pre-trial hearing. The last one is D. It is a Latin term which means on the threshold was originally used as a request made to the judge before a trial begins, such as a request exclude evidence. It is a term which is specifically used before a particular procedure or proceeding take place.
D, sir, D.
Why it is a D?
Because it's explaining about the term.
See, here I have given the already feedback. A
Threshold,
motion
sir.
remaining a motion that is tabled, one of the parties, that is about the C. B, sorry. A motion in remand is a motion that is tabled, one of the parties at the very ending of the legal procedure and seeks to pull the rug out from the feet of the other party. A motion presumed at the outset of the a case to determine the admissibility of certain evidence. So now we will see that what I changed. It is the very beginning is the very word that should have to come over there. It is the very beginning of the thing, it should be there. But here, it is not the beginning where I said, with the ending I said here. See, here ending I said. Did you see? Here ending I said, but it is actually at very beginning, not ending. Liman you have to show in the beginning, not ending. So in the beginning, so that is the B is the answer for that one. And these are the things it needs a sharp brain, a close-up action, because all looks alike, but only one not in, out, will make your difference. So that is very much important. So such type of the question you can now don't do in the beginning. You do only at the last time when you have, and you spare your time, then you shoot. So that was the thing which I want to make it out. Intervivos, and everybody knows, means the 2% should allow all three but not one. Yes, read anyone, unmute and read A. Anyone can unmute and read A.
Inter vivos is a Latin phrase which means while alive or between the living. This phrase is primarily used in property law and refers to various legal actions taken by a given person while still alive, such as giving gifts, creating trust, or conveying property. B. The phrase refers to a transfer of property by agreement between living persons and can be contrasted with a testamentary transfer, which is a transfer made in a will after death. In general, an inter vivos gift refers to a transfer or gift given to someone while both the giver and the receiver are dead. C. An inter vivos trust is effectively a legal document created while the individual for which the trust is drawn up is still living. The assets are titled in the name of the living trust by the trust owner and are used or spent down by the trust owner while they are alive. D. Latin for among the living, usually referring to the transfer of property by agreement between living persons and not by a gift through a will.
See, it looks all alike, but the difficult thing is there something somewhere I made a changes for that one. So if you closely watch, then only you could able to see where I made the change. So
Yes, sir.
if you have, yes, please try.
Trust is It is C. An interviewer's trust is effectively a legal document related.
B, sir.
Either B, there is a mistake I did. I did it. What the mistake I did it? See, actually not dead. They are.
Live.
It is not dead. Could you say the receiver are dead? Are 2% should be alive. Are you following me? Interviewers means 2% should be alive. See, when you read dead, dead will not appear over here. So there, intervivos, the idea is 2% should be alive. It is alive refers to a transfer or a gift given to someone will, while both the giver and the receiver are alive, not dead. If the dead would be there, the intervivos will not come into the picture. So that is the essential thing that one should have to keep in the mind. Okay, caveat emptor and means all but not one, because cavity, everybody knows. A let a purchaser can be roughly translated in English to let the buyer beware. While the phrase is sometimes used as a proverb in English, it is also sometimes used in the legal contracts as a type of disclaimer. B. The doctrine of caveat emptor in an integral part of the Specific Relief Act. It translates let the buyer aware. This doctrine says that the seller will not be responsible for this caveat emptor or caveat emptor. The pronunciation is, it varies, but you say caveat, C-A-V-E-A-T, caveat emptor. Okay, the buyer himself is responsible for the choice he made. And the D, generally the caveat emptor or caveat emptor is the contract law principle that controls the sale of the real property after the date of the closing, but may also apply sales of other goods. See, everywhere, everything is giving the same type of the thing, but only one place I changed it.
Sir,
Like
B, sir.
yes,
The
why
doctrine
B?
of
Why
caveat
B? Tell
emptor
me.
is an integral part of Specific Relief Act.
Why B? Tell me.
B.
I changed the Specific Relief Act. Actually, it's not a Specific Relief Act. It's a Sale of Goods Act. The doctrine of caveat emptor is an integral part of the Sales of Goods Act. But I changed to the, here what I changed, no, I changed to the Specific Relief Act. But actually it is It is a Sales of Goods Act.
Sales Code Act.
Yeah, that is actually the Sales of Goods Act. It will come. Okay, now let us see the Specific Relief Act questions 1963. How many sections? How many chapters? How many parts in Specific Relief Act? Sir. Yes. Why do you take that much time? Why do you take that much time? Because in every, you have to try to remember some mnemonic value. Okay, if this is going to be asked, okay, you have to remember like this. You have to remember like this. You have to remember like this. So you have to develop your own technique. Right answer is
C, sir.
Sir.
D.
C, sir.
8 chapters, 44 section.
is everywhere.
C, sir.
Everything is red. A, Apple A,
Yes, sir.
American A.
Hmm.
You have to
Roman
write the
number 8 and
44
Roman
Arabic
number 3.
numerals, and the chapters we have to write always the capital Roman, and the
Roman
parts
number.
also we have to write the capital Roman. That is the A.
Answer is A, sir.
Yes, that is why I say I am crying and say A. Okay, the Specific Relief Act 1963, Act number dash of 1963.
47, sir.
It
C,
is
sir.
47, sir.
47. It is the people are now, they know my pulse. Sir definitely will ask the act number, even though he did not ask the, no, I do ask it when it is enforced and when is the act number, because it's a very technical thing. No, one should have to remember it, because everybody knows the 1963, but they did not know that the act number on the particular year is 47. Okay, read the 13. Anyone unmute and read? I want to see.
Specific
Second,
Relief
sir. Specific.
Act 1963. This act is considered to be in one of the branches of the dash.
Very
A.
good.
Sale of Goods Act 1930. B. Indian Contracts Act 1872. C. Transfer of Property Act. D. The General Clause Act 1897.
B, sir. Indian Contract Act
It is the
1870.
Indian Contract Act. It is the extension of the transfer of properties. Extension of the Indian Contract Act is the right answer. Okay, which one is not covered under the Special Relief Act? Injunctions, writs, cancellation of instruments, declaratory decrees.
Sir.
Writs B.
It is the writs will not covered. Asan is right. If the writs will not cover over there, recovery of possession of property is there, specific performance of the contract is there, rectification of the instrument is there, rescission of the contract is there, cancellation of instrument is there, declaratory decrease is there, injunctions are there, but writ is not there. Okay, now the 15th dash of the Specific Relief Act explains that this act grants a special relief for the enforcement of the individual rights and not for the imposing the penal laws. Which section says? Section 3, Section 3 capital A, Section 4, Section 4 capital A. Shoot.
Sir, yes, sir. Section 3.
Second option.
C, sir.
It's the C. Section 4 is the right answer. Not 4A. That is I fabricated. Okay, 16th. The Law of Specific Relief Act 1963 works on the basic principle that all three are correct. All three are very much relevant, but not one. Which one it is? A. Possession itself is a prima facie proof of the ownership. B. Possession itself is a prima facie evidence of the ownership. C. Possession is itself a prima facie evidence of the ownership. And possession is itself a prima facie document of ownership. Which one is the appropriate answer? See, everywhere I made some changes. Please note, everywhere I made some changes. Somewhere I wrote the proof, somewhere I wrote the evidence, somewhere I wrote the prima itself or himself. But one is very
Answer
much
is
right.
B, sir. Answer is B, sir. Possession in himself a prima facie evidence of the ownership.
Where is the himself? Where the he is there? Who is the first person? Whether he is there, first person, or she is there. If she is there, herself. If he is there, himself. Possession, see,
Sir,
possession
C,
is
sir. C,
itself.
sir. C.
C. You are right. Possession is itself a prima facie evidence of the ownership. That is their exact answer, not herself, himself, document or evidence and so thing. Okay, now let us come to the 17. The specific performance of a contract shall not be enforced by the court subject to the provisions contained in the subsection 2 of dash, section 11, section 14, section 16, section 18.
Eleven, sir. Section A.
I say shall not.
Answer A, sir.
I say shall not be enforced by the court subject to the provision contained in the subsection 2 of, then I wrote all 11, 14, 16 and 18. It is the section 18. Shall not, I made it. See the section, then you will know the answer. Okay, 18th question. Contract not specifically enforceable. The following contracts cannot be specifically enforced, namely, of course, 4 I have given, 1 is a false, rest of the 3 are very much relevant to the our contract not specifically enforced. And the contract cannot be specifically enforced. 3 contracts are not specifically enforced, 1 can be done. Yes, what is that? A, where a party to the contract has obtained a substituted performance of the contract in accordance with the provision of the section 20A, number 1. B, a contract, the performance of which involves the performance of the continuous duty which the court cannot supervise. C, a contract which is so dependent on the personal qualification of the parties that the court cannot enforce the specific performance of its material terms. D, a contract which in its nature determinable. Only small mistake I made it, that's why it is not enforceable there.
Sir, C, sir, C.
What is the wrong there? A contract which is so dependent, okay, on the personal qualification of the parties. Suppose you have contracted that you want to design a beautiful picture, but you become a handicapped, or you got an injury, or where your hand is something was done. So can such a contract will be performed?
Enforce specific performance.
See, if you happen to see A, where a party to the contract has obtained the substituted performance of a contract in accordance with the provision of the section 20. I said, I did not say 20, I added 1A. I made so confusion, a small mistake I made it, and that is it is 20A is not the right answer. It is the 20 is the right answer. The specifically I am making such a thing, the reason is you should have a thorough knowledge in a particular thing. And then your sharpness will be increased. So that is my intention. When you become a sharpness, other thing is very easy to you. Now, if the examiner will ask, what is the act number? And I'm sure that you definitely do that question because you are having the habituated to know the every act number. Okay, now come to the 19th question. When a company has entered into a contract and subsequently becomes amalgamated with another company, the new company which arises out of the amalgamation, the specific prevalence of a contract, then I made that four choices. The specific performance of the contract cannot be obtained. B, the specific performance of the contract can be retained. C, the specific performance of the contract may be obtained. D, the specific performance of the contract might be obtained. See, thoroughly, very concentratedly you watch it. They say amalgamated. That means 3 companies become 1 company, like the banks. So now Canara Bank, what are the banks are measured in the Canara Bank? Yes?
Union
Sir,
Union Bank of
Syndicate
India, sir.
Union
Bank.
Bank, Andhra Bank.
No,
Andhra
Union
Bank.
Bank, Union
Andhra
Bank
Bank.
of India.
Sorry, sir. Andhra Bank, sir.
Union Bank of India lo Andhra Bank merge ayindi.
Yes, sir.
Then another one, Dina Bank also there. It is merged over there. So when they merged over there, should be performed or not performed? You check it. Especially concentrate on C and D. Tell me the answer.
Sir, D, sir. The specific performance of contract might be obtained.
See, might is different. Maybe is different. may be obtained. Might be means definitely. The specific
sir.
performance of contract
Okay.
may be obtained
Okay,
is
yes,
the right
yes.
answer. See, there is no contract cannot be obtained, no. It can be retained, no. Or may be obtained is right, not might be obtained. So that is the answer. So explanation, what is mentioned or appeared in the specific relief act? How many times? Sir, do they ask such a question? Hey, somewhere I saw a particular word, how many times it is come in the constitution? They asked it in the constitution, they asked a particular word. So now explanation word is mentioned or appeared in the specific relief act. How many times? Shoot, even though it is wrong, doesn't matter. Because there is no minus marks.
8 times, sir. A.
9, not 9. It's a 10
9
times.
times.
It is a 10 times. Means see, it is a section 7, it is given 2 times, and section 8 it is given 1 time, 12th section given 1 time, 16th section given 1 time, 20 capital A is given 1 time, 21, 27, and 34. Then in schedule is given in the 1 time explanation. So total becomes how many? 10. Okay. Now let us go to the next. Under which section explanations are mentioned twice under specific relief act? Just now I read. Just now
Section 7.
Section 7 is the right answer because I read here. Recovery of specific immovable property 2 times I wrote. So I want to check your sharpness. It is the section 7, the 2 times explanations are given. In the other things, it is given only 1 time. Okay, 7th, then next question. Okay, how many sections are repealed in the specific relief act? How many sections are repealed? Only 2 sections are repealed. See, here I made the Bear Act. Only 2 are specific relief act. No, this is here. See, only 2 sections are repealed. What are they? I will show you. I will drag you to down. Did you see?
Section 43 and 44.
Only 43 and 44 is repealed. Rest of the things are not repealed over there. So now the second question also the same thing. If the which sections are repealed means it is section 43
D,
and
sir.
44.
43 and 44. D.
సార్ మేము తీసుకెళ్తాం సార్ ఏంటి సార్ బేరాక్ట్ సార్ వద్దు చిలుకకు చెప్పినట్టు చెప్తానా మీకు ప్యారెట్కి చెప్పినట్టు చెప్తానా వద్దు యూ విల్ కిల్ యువర్ టైం యూ వేస్ట్ యువర్ టైం see whatever the difficult would be there you keep it aside, use your all mechanism, equations, and all strategies, all intuitions, then shoot. I am sure out of 10 you will shoot at least 6 right. Enough, more than enough. That is more than enough to you. Okay, Transfer of Property Act 1882. The Transfer of Property Act 1882, which came into force on, deals with the
See, sir.
transfer.
1st July 1882.
July 1882.
I appreciate. Everybody know the pulse of it because generally the question will be asked in that manner. Okay, now you tell me that I want to see your IQ. One of the oldest law in the Indian legal system is law of contract, law of section.
Contract, sir.
Actually, it is a
Oldest
contract.
maritime law.
Contract only, but here no. The dispute came in the transfer of property first. Contract came later part. The dispute, property dispute comes. So the Transfer of Property Act is the Indian legal. Of course, transfer of property is the extension of law of contract, no doubt. But
Sir, the law code of Manu, also called as Manu Smriti, Manu Dharma Shastra, is the oldest law code in India, right?
yeah. That. But here in this context, if I am asking, contract dispute రావు, property disputes are because they follow the dharma at the time. But when you come to the matter of the property, more disputes comes in the property. Because
Sir.
money makes you to suffer a lot. So, సార్ బ్రైబ్ ముందుగా ఉన్నదా సార్, ప్రాస్టిట్యూషన్ ముందుగా ఉన్నదా చెప్పండి ఇప్పుడు.
Pride, sir.
No, prostitution is the oldest one.
Pride.
Okay, let us come to the come. The Transfer of Property Act is an extension of the law of contracts and runs parallel to the succession laws. For the planning of the transfer of the immovable property, knowing that the aspect of the transfer of property is quite important. Okay, now 26. Which one statement is false among the four? Means three are very much relevant, but one is false. Here, the transfer of property is applicable primarily on transfer of immovable property from one living person inter vivos to another. Okay, very good. Transfer of property is not applicable to the property transferred by individuals as well as by companies. And C, transfer of property is applicable to acts of the parties and not to another transfer of applicable by the law. D, transfer of property does not cover the inheritance, will, forfeitures, insolvency, and sale through the execution of the decree. Then which one is the?
B.
You check
Sir,
it.
answer
B.
B, sir.
Answer
It's
B
already in
because
feedback.
I feedback it is given. I have forgotten to roll it down. The TP
No,
Act
sir.
is not
Before only I
applicable.
want to tell, sir, that
Yeah,
answer.
okay, it doesn't matter.
Before
If
you
you, of course, I appreciate. You did not see the feedback. Okay. But the TP Act
because
is not applicable on property. It is on property transfer. Yeah. Especially property transfer by individuals as well as by the companies. That would be the answer for that one. Okay, it doesn't matter. The term transfer includes transfer of through all but not one. What is that? The term transfer
B,
includes
sir.
transfer. Yeah, there is no pledge, no pawn is there. It is a sale is there, mortgage is there, lease is there, action of crime is there, gift is there, exchange is there. But again, will is not there in the transfer of property. Easement is not there in transfer of property. Subsidiary question. Suppose if they ask which is not covered in the transfer of property, suppose if they write the will, you say the will is not covered in the transfer of property. Suppose if they write easements, then you say easement will not be covered over there. But the rest of the other things, what are the 6 things will be covered in the transfer of property? Anyone? We have the next question like that. Okay, now you see the next question. Dash of the act lays down the rules with people who are legally eligible to transfer their property. Who can transfer their property is given in the section 6, 7, 8, 9.
Section 6, sir. A.
No. What are transferable is given in the section 6. But who can transfer given in the 7? Okay, which example is wrong or false one? Here I have given the examples. Ram leases his plot to Mohan and puts in a clause in the lease agreement that he would have the right to re-enter. If the rent is not paid for over 3 months, then he alone will have the right to do so. He can't pass on this right to re-enter, so Ganesh is associate. That is one example. Then B, Ram has a right of passage over the land belonging to B, Mohan. Ram decided to transfer his right way to Ganesh, and this is a transfer of easement right. It is a invalid. See, in a house is lent to Ram for his personal use. He cannot transfer his right of enjoyment to Mohan. And D, a farmer of an estate has not defaulted in paying the revenue, can't assign his interest in the holding. So here I have given the A, B, C, D. 4 examples I have given. Then I asked which one is false one.
B, sir.
Let us see who will come. A farmer as an estate has a defaulted. So D
Default.
are not relevant to it, but other things are very
That's not defaulted. Okay.
not defaulted that I made it out. So his defaulted, that is the thing. Okay, next 30th question. Dash of the act talks about the responsibility of the seller of a property. Section 52, section 53, section 54, section 55. Still 5 minutes are left. It is section 54 deals about that one. Okay, these are the responsibility of the seller of property, all 3 but not 1. Quick. Of course, I made the feedback down.
Feedback.
The last one, no, the third one. To keep all due, no, not keep all dues. To pay all the public charges, not dues. To keep all the public charges and rent accrue respect to the property up to the date of the sale. But here I made that to keep all due public charges. That is wrong. and the rest of the other things are very much very relevant. Duties of the buyer during the transfer of property, all but not one of them. So I made the duties over here. Why? To disclose to the seller any fact about the property of which the buyer is aware of that, but has a reason to believe that the seller is not aware of, and which materially increases the value of such interest. B. To pay the purchase money to the seller at the time and the place of completing the sale. C. To bear any loss arising from the destruction, injury, or decrease in value of the property caused by the seller where the ownership of the property has passed on to the buyer. And the D. To pay all the public charges and rent which may become payable on the property. The principal money is due to any encumbrances subject to which the property is sold, and the interest thereon afterwards accruing due with the ownership of the property has passed on to the buyer. So I made all the things. Now we have to closely look at, then give the answer for that one. Answer is to bear any loss arising from the destruction or injury or a decrease in the value of the property. I did not say not there. Then to bear in mind means this one. The rest of the there I did there is property called a not. There comes a not here. Here comes not. Where property after that it becomes not in the B. So that is a very much important factor. To bear means where is here property not it should come over here. So I removed the not. So which one is false? Before the Transfer of Property Act came into existence, property transfer in India were regulated by the English law. B. The Act consists of the 9 chapters and 137 sections, and it deals mainly with the transfer of the immovable property, while some sections will deal the movable property too. D. The Transfer of Property Act is an extension of the law of contract, which is false.
Answer is C, sir.
No. How many chapters are
Sir.
there? Sections are 137. How many chapters are there?
Yes, sir.
8 chapters, but I made 9 chapters.
Yes.
This is the falsy. Okay. Next, we will see from the downside then what I can do so that the important things would be here. I wrote the negotiations. Okay, let us see the last one. 42 is the last one. Okay, let us see the following. Match the following section from part 1 and explanation or description in part 2. Section 82, section 128, section 138, section 147. Then opposite to that, I wrote the offenses to be compatible, designer of the checks for the insufficiency, payment due course of the cross check, and discharge of the from liability. 138, everybody knows. What is 138?
B, sir. B, sir. 1D, 2C, 3B,
Yes,
4A.
1D, 2C, 3B, 4A. Section 82, discharge from the liability. Section 128, payment in due course of the cross check. 138, designer of check. 147, offensive compatible. Now here also again, foreign instrument, maturity, negotiation, negotiable instrument. So this is also a very good, and here which I have given is maturity, what is come, negotiation, what is come, negotiable instrument, what is come, foreign instrument, which is come. Then I have given the answer here. Foreign exchange, then I give the explanation. Then which is the right one? 1A, 2C, 3B, 4D, 1D, 2C, 3B, 4A, 1C, 2D, 3B, 4A, or 1B, 2C, 3D, 4A. Negotiable instrument, and so the answer is 1D, 2C, 3B, 4A. Here I have given C. Foreign instrument means any such instrument not drawn or made by the payable shall be deemed to be the foreign instrument. Maturity, the maturity of the promissory note, and negotiation, when a promissory note will have the exchange or check it transferred,
Sir,
and the
I
negotiable
want to
instrument.
ask something, sir.
Yes.
Sir, can I get last class recording, sir?
Yes.